Hello, 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 everyone. We are here. We are live one more Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to join us each Friday on our Lunch and Learn. We are back here, and the month is almost completed. We are way down to the 21st of June. And with me is my co host, Dr. Siegfried Howell. Dr. Howell, as usual, I introduce him. He is a life, happiness, and relationship coach and consultant. And he is also a master life coach. Dr. Howell helps men and the women they love who struggle with internal um, challenges in life. And so Dr. Howell is that person. When you think about relationship, you think about Dr. Howell. And he's also a corporate trainer. He's available for corporate training, management, and leadership. And as usual, I'm yours truly, Dr. Janice Brooks, wearing many hats. I am a part of the Maxwell team of leadership coaches and trainers and speakers. We also are available for corporate training, management, leadership development, and I'm also a licensed pastoral counselor. And today we will be talking about a topic that I believe is relevant to every single one of us in life. And this topic is the process of change or the power of change in life and leadership. The the power of process in life and leadership. And when we think about process, we think about uh, a journey, a place from here to there. That's the process. And every single thing in life has a process. I say there is no highway to destiny. Try as you may, you're going to have to travel a winding path, take detours, and sometimes you may even lose your way in getting there. And when we talk about the power of process, there are many scenarios that will come to mind because life in itself is a process. There is an appointed time and an appointed place for everything in life. And getting there will mean that we will have to go through that process. And one thing I want to say here to my audience is that it is dangerous when anyone is given anything of value in life, whether it's money, power, promotion, whatever it is, when anyone is given anything in life without proper preparation, without that process or going through that process, it is dangerous. I speak this because when we think of the prodigal son, that's such a great example. He told his father to give him his inheritance. And I do believe that he knew that there was an inheritance there. Otherwise, he couldn't have asked for it. But he did not await the process. He wanted it before the time. And I want to believe that there was an appointed time for him to get the inheritance. And so his father gave it to him. And we know the story very well, what happened. So when there is no process in obtaining value, then the value in itself is diminished. And we see this in many different aspects of life. We see this even with the lottery. Many persons win the lottery, and because there was no process, they end up being worse off than they were before. And we could talk about so many other persons and circumstances and scenarios where we recognize that the power of process is significant to life. Dr. Howell, how do you view this power of process in life and leadership?
You covered quite a few of those topics already. But when I was preparing for this program, for this Lunch and Learn, I was drawn back to my early years of martial arts. I remember back in the 70s watching kung fu shows, and as kids we watched the show and then we went out there and we tried to fight each other using the same things that we had seen. And what we found out was that a lot of these things were difficult to do because There was a process these people went through, or should I say, a system that they went through that taught them how to do it efficiently. I was watching a documentary one time, and they were saying that in some monasteries, when they're teaching young ones how to do martial arts, you might spend 6 months to a year just learning how to punch properly. And then you spend another 6 months to a year learning how to kick properly. And then you spend another 6 months learning how to block properly before you even go into learning any of the moves. Because if you don't have the punches, the kicks, and the blocks down pat, you will learn something ineffectively and you will not be able to do what you need to do. So when I think of a process in life, when I think about a process in business, I think of what are the systems that we can employ to make sure that there's a systematic way that we can use, even when we're lost, even if we're brand new. Once we get into that system or that highway, like you said, you know, sometimes you might have to get off to get some gas. You might have to get off to get some food. Sometimes you might have a flat tire. You got to pull over to the side a little bit. But once you get back on to that system, which is the highway, you know that you will get to your end point. And I was thinking about the fake Steve Jobs, that lady, her last name was Holmes. She did everything possible to trick people into buying into her system, and her system was the one where they were testing samples of blood. But she's now in prison because she skipped some of the steps. She drank some of her Kool-Aid. She put the cart before the horse, and she sold pie in the sky. And so when people started to fact check her, when people started to not get the results that they wanted, they realized that the system was flawed. And so, as you said, there is no quick way to become great. There's no quick way to become a leader. Even the best basketball player needs a coach. Even the best business person needs a coach. Because at the end of the day, there are things that you may not know that can cost you dearly in the end. And even, like, for example, a swimming coach. I heard about a girl who lost the race, and she spent the next 4 years training for the Olympics, and all she did was to shave 1 second off of her time, and that is what was needed in order for her to win the gold 4 years later. And so it is what you do to streamline the process, to streamline everything you do in leadership, that makes that thing work better.
Wow, you have covered a whole lot in that. But the summing up of everything that you have said is that the process is critical.
Yes.
And you gave those examples of persons who tried to go above the process, to run ahead of it. And in the end, it didn't work out well. So Dr. Howell, when we look at all of that, the question comes to mind is that how has embracing this process worked in our own lives and in the lives of others we admire? And when I look at that point of view, that question, I have already told my story. At least 5% of my story is out there, and most of it speaks to embracing process and going through that process with a sense of understanding, a sense of knowing that I was not just thrown into the process, but the process is a vital part of my development. And so I stuck to the process. So when I say this, I want us to not fool ourselves, because embracing the process is not the easiest thing for any of us to do. It was never easy for me. I don't think anyone who has passed through the process can really say this process was really easy for me. at some point in time, they have had challenging times. And one of the mistakes that many people make, and we are not blaming this, I don't want to blame this on social media or, the media. However, in this day of social media, many things are shown as a hype or as it appears like a nice and dandy situation. And it is how portrayed, that's how they put it for us to see it. And this appearance of perfection, Dr. Howell, it sometimes evokes a kind of longing in many people for that instant result and that gratification. And that is dangerous because we talk about value earlier, and I talk about value, and time is one of the greatest values we have. And with time, there is a process. I love to speak from the Bible. And Jesus himself studied for 33 years. I want to call it studied for 33 years before he taught. And he only taught for 3 years. The rest of his time was for his personal development and his public ministry. But yet, sometimes persons will think that I can take a day, I can take 6 weeks, I can take a year, and I can be so advanced. And it's okay, it depends on what you're doing. But you have to know that the process is so very important, and the process is so powerful. I speak of Jesus and I speak of David. David had to wait for 15 years after he was anointed for his first breakthrough, which was slaying the giant Goliath. And even if we come back closer home from the Bible, I read a story about Sylvester Stallone, who went broke and had to sleep in the bus station. He actually had to sell his dog in order to get money to live. But when we look at a man like him, how he has climbed the ranks and has did so many things, have done so many things, and is a name that is known throughout the world. We could speak of so many other persons, Dr. Howell. How would you look at that question?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. When I think about that question, I think about people like Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and a lot of people who did not finish college, but they are billionaires. And that is what a lot of people who do not want to get an education, that's what they use as their foundation to say, so college is overrated, education is overrated. But what we miss is the amount of books that they read constantly in order to get the understanding that they know. Elon Musk has said on many occasions, you don't even need to go to college anymore. Everything you want is online. Yes, but do you have the ability and the processes to get, filter, and understand what it is you need in order to be successful? Education does give you a baseline that you can use as a stepping stone to get where you want to get to. Now, if you don't have the money and if you don't have the ability to do that, you still have to put in your 10,000 hours. So in order to be good at anything, you have to put in a minimum of 10,000 hours in order to be in the upper echelon of that particular field. And so there's no way around putting in the time. Now, I remember my dad, when I was 16 years old, I wasn't doing well in college. And my dad came and he spoke to me and he said to me, hey, son, if a guy can write a book, or if a man can write a book and you are a man, does it matter how long it takes for you to learn what's in that book? Because if you get an A and it took you 2 weeks to learn that information, and someone else gets an A and it took them 2 days to learn that information, does that A mean a difference? When people see your report card and both y'all have a 4.0 or both y'all have an A, B average, is anyone asking, well, how long did it take for you to get that A? They look at the grade as the end point. And so a lot of times we envy the people who get an A with a little bit of studying. But what we forget is a lot of the people who study and get an A, they're playing school and not necessarily learning. And so I memorize a lot more than a lot of other classmates because it took me longer to learn it. And so sometimes the journey is more important than the destination, because I learned that studying and doing it well one time would mean I did not have to do it again. But you would not have known that unless you went through the process. And so at the end of the day, nothing beats a good process. Nothing beats a good system, because it allows you to change from the inside out. And if you look at the law of attraction, you attract what you are on the inside. So if you have good processes that lead to success, you will attract success. But if you have a lot of shortcuts built into your processes, then you will have a lot of pitfalls in your road towards success. What do you think about that?
And you're so correct. And it leads me to the point, Dr. Howell, that, often we wonder, why is it that most people, or many people for that matter, do not want to embrace the process? And I believe you have said so much about that already. You talked about your father and talked about writing that book and how you can do. And one of the things I look at, Dr. Howell, and the Bible says, and I'm going to say it again because I love my Bible. The Bible says the poor will always be with us. And I am not looking at it so much in terms of money. I believe it's such a profound statement, but I'm not looking at it so much in terms of money. I am looking at it in so much of having that inability to endure. Because I believe this word poor means you can be poor in so many ways, lacking in. And the reason why the poor will always be with us is because there's going to be a large number of persons who will not have the ability to endure. They would rather have it now, give it to me now, and let me have it, rather than let me endure and have it in abundance in 5 years. Or let me invest and have it, my investment turnover in 5 years. So instead of having $1, I have $1 million. And that is what the Bible really is speaking about. It's not just being poor in not having money. I believe it's being poor in so many other ways. And the other thing I want to add to that is every process comes with change, and every change has a process. And unless we see that, Dr. Howell, that every process comes with change and every change has a process, then we are not going to be able to apply the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding to each process or each period of change that we go through. And this is the crux of the thing, is that nothing in life lasts forever. Not even the world is going to last forever, as one day this world is going to pass as well. So no one will ever be in the same position forever, from birth to death. Dr. Howell, have you ever seen anyone in the same position from they're born until they die? Unless they die the same minute that they were born.
Nope, I have not. I have seen people make it. I remember I watched this documentary about football players, and they were saying that whether it's football or basketball, when a lot of these players retire, within 5 years, most of them file for bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. And it's because they never learned the process of money saving. Mm-hmm. They thought that the money would last forever. Mm-hmm. And it was people like Magic Johnson who started to tell the young people, hey, this money's not going to last forever. You have approximately 5 to 10 years you can play in the NBA. And then after that, you are retired. So if you go in at 25, you're coming out at 35. And what are you going to do if you have no other way of making money? No other way of, you have no other skills. And so even the gathering of skills is a process. And the Bible says that everything lasts but a season. Life is about the winters, the springs, the summers, and the falls, and right back to the winters again. And I believe that there was a guy, Jim Rohn. He says, when you are in your springtime, it is time to plant. It is time to invest. When your summers come, it's time to weed. It's time to water and just proliferate, because the fall is coming. The fall is your time of harvest. That's when you have a lot of money coming in, and man, life is doing well. And the thing is, don't get drunk on success, because after every fall comes a winter. A winter is a time of very little. A winter is a time of harshness. A winter is a time where you might put the energy in. You might work on your system, but you're not reaping anything at that point in time. But the sad part is, a lot of people reach to the winters, and instead of digging deep, buckling down, and practicing endurance, they fall by the wayside. But what happens is, you're building muscle memory. You're building that persistence. You're building all those things needed. And then what happens after the winter, when you think nothing is happening, it's like the wheat is like the root system of a plant, just digging down deep. There's nothing coming up. You can't see all the work that's going into making sure that plant is going to have a strong foundation. And then all of a sudden, here comes the springtime, and that's rapid growth. But that rapid growth comes from all of that repetition and all of the processes in the winter. So I want to let people know, you may not see the change happening, but the change is happening.
Wow.
And like you said earlier, nothing stays the same. Everything will have to change. Even when you're up, you're going to be down. When you're sideways, you're going to be right side up at some point in time. But nobody stays the same. The key is, don't wallow in self-pity. The key is, don't sit there and wait for something to happen. You have to dig deep and keep pushing forward and keep pushing your process, so that when your winter is over, you have a springtime of proliferation.
Wow. That is so profound, Dr. Howell. And what I hear you saying is to seek the knowledge, seek the understanding, get that wisdom while you're going through the process. And many times we're not going to understand. But that seeking is so important, because when we seek, we find. As I listened to you, I thought of the man who sat at the pool of Bethesda in the Bible for 38 years. That was his process. And we tend to criticize him, and many people criticize him and say, what was he doing there? He could have got nearer to the pool and all kind of things. He could have asked for help. But the very fact that he did not give up, he was still there, is a testament that he was still believing that something would happen in the process. He was still believing that he would come out the process better than he went in. And when we seek for clarity during the process, especially if it's a challenging one, there will be those immense lessons that we can learn, as you said, Dr. Howell. And whether it's in our personal life, our business, whether it's in leadership, wherever we are, we will come up with some complexity at times, and it will require us to dig deeper. But if we endure the process, we are definitely going to come out better. And so it leads me to my next question as we go closer to wrapping up. How can people more understand that the process, you talked about this earlier too, I know you're hopping over, understand that the process is just as important, or sometimes even more important than the end result, because it's in that process that there is so much grit. And I say this, that we can help people to grasp that idea that the journey holds the greater significance for them than the destination. And sometimes it's a challenge to help to get people to understand, because of where we are in life. People just want that get rich quick everything. Let me have it today. I don't know about tomorrow. But one way we can emphasize that, Dr. Howell, as I talked about earlier, is to emphasize value, the value of process, and the impact that that value can have on our personal lives wherever we are. And when we are able to really help people to understand that the lessons, the experiences, the skills that they will gain along the way, they will really start, or can start to appreciate that there is power in process. And it's not just power. I believe it is transformative power that is inside of every process. And when we can encourage them also to focus on the moment that they're in, that present moment makes a difference. Sometimes the frustration comes because people are looking too far ahead. So when we get people to focus on that present moment and to enjoy what we would call in Jamaica, enjoy the ride, rather than just fixating on what is going to happen at the end, then people will be able to more embrace and have a deeper understanding of process. And the final way I would say that we can help them is to, and I spoke about this already, the understanding. Sometimes when they hear other people's story, because I said sometimes I believe I have a serious story, but when I hear other people's story, I said, oh my God, I have not even started yet. You know, because there are so many remarkable success stories out there, that through the dedication and willingness of people to embrace their journey, they have come out, they have navigated, they have come out better on the other side. And that's where the beauty really lies. And that's where we need to point people to be able to see these examples and to learn from them. What would you add there, Dr. Howell?
Well, you covered quite a few topics that I found interesting already. But I will talk about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of the financial gurus that everyone goes back to. But before I talk about Warren Buffett, let me just say this real fast. I read something yesterday that said from 1970 to today, America has more fast food, doubled the amount of fast food restaurants. Doubled. So in 60 years, we have doubled the amount of fast food restaurants that we have. And that goes to what you said when you alluded to the fact that people want stuff now. Back when we were growing up, dinner was about spending time together, whether it was in the kitchen or sitting down together. Now people want the food quickly, and they want to go to their own individual rooms. They want to watch TV while eating. You got we had the TV dinner fad that we went through and all of that. And now I'm running back to Warren Buffett, because the two have the same thing. So when America went through all the cycles, when the stock market would go up and come down, go up and come down, when the stock market crashed, everyone would sell their stuff and they would lose a lot of money and everyone was going crazy. People like Warren Buffett saw, hey, when the market is down low, that is an opportunity for me to buy cheap, because within 2 years after the market goes low, it's going to go back up. So everything that is now cheap is going to double, triple, quadruple in value, and I will be able to sell when it's high and make my money back. and make a ton of money. And so Warren Buffett would study every day. He would study the trends, and he started to see the patterns that were within the stock market. He said after the stock market went up high, within a couple of years, it would drop low. After the stock market went low, within a couple of years, it'll go back up to normal and then go back up to high. So there's a series of ebbs and flows that the stock market follows. And so when everyone is being hysterical because it's dropping down low, all of the knowledgeable investors are getting excited because they know within 2 to 3 years, I'm going to double and triple and quadruple my money. And that's the power of learning the process. That's the power of learning consistency and grit and digging in deep to find out what is going on. Now, I want to jump back and say this. Going back to the fast food scenario, they say between 40 to 45%, even higher in some studies, in America have either diabetes or pre-diabetes. So with the rise in fast food restaurants, we have a rise in a lot of health problems. And that's because people do not want to put the time and energy in to cooking, to getting nutritious food, to going shopping, to planning ahead. They want it now versus the journey of cooking and spending time with family and the journey towards better health. And so just like in the financial aspect, we have the health aspect where people are suffering because they don't have that grit, that tenacity, and that determination to go into a process of eating, cooking, and living better so that when they get to an older age, they're not popping more pills than they can afford.
Wow. Wow. You're 100% correct. And when you talked about the food and the different illnesses, Dr. Howell, that's like a whole topic by itself.
Yes, yes.
That's like an entire topic by itself because many people would rather to eat the food and then take the tablets and the medication rather than taking the time to go through the process of really creating a healthy meal for themselves. And it speaks to the level of process of thinking. We're talking about process of how people think. The fast food has really, and the media around the fast food has really warped and changed that process of them thinking for themselves as to what is best. So they gravitate and grasp to that one thing. But we're going to be closing in a few minutes, but we want to just leave a few strategies with persons that they can really use and help them, even people who are struggling with embracing the process that they're going through. Because I know that many persons are going through challenging processes in life at this time. And whether the process is challenging or not, many people are not at the place that they would want to be at this point in time. It may not be significant challenge, but the level of growth that they want to experience, they are not experiencing it at this time. And so it's a process that they're going through. So I want to leave a few strategies, and I'm sure you have others that you want to leave with the audience today as to how to really embrace this process and go through grow. I'm glad I said grow. I was going to say go, but grow is really the right word, and grow through it. The first strategy I would say, Dr. Howell, whether we believe it or not, belief is a strategy. I want to say believe that something good is going to come out of this. Because when we're in some situations, we're in a growing place, and sometimes the growth is challenging or is not what we want. Sometimes it's hard to believe that something good is going to come out of it. But we have to believe that something good is going to come out of where we are, the process that we're going through. And while we are believing, I want us to also know our position, know your position. Look at where you are and where you want to go. And in doing that, you plot out a path. And also understanding that along that path, there are going to be obstacles and setback. Again, I'm quoting the Bible. Jesus and Dr. Howell, you remember, he told his disciples that they were getting into a boat and going over the other side. But I believe that the disciples thought that having Jesus in the boat, they would never encounter a storm like that. But the Bible says when they got to the middle, a storm broke out. And we know the rest of the story. And this teaches us, Dr. Howell, that regardless of having the best, because Jesus was the best, having the best of everything, we might have the best of education, we might live in the best house, we might have some money, but we still will encounter challenges as we go through process, or we will encounter things that we did not want to encounter as we go through process. And I believe personally that the level of greatness that we will get to or we will achieve is also defined by the heat of the process that we go through. Again, I want to say that there is no highway to destiny. We have to travel on winding paths. And those winding paths are sometimes not where we want to go. I want to also tell my audience to stay committed to the process. We should not be flip-flopping and expect that everything is going to get out. We're going to get out fast. And we're going to reap the benefits of the process without staying committed. We have to also stay focused. It is tempting, especially in this age that we live in, to look around on the media everywhere and see others who seem as if they're getting by. And this can cause others to have a sense of helplessness or even hopelessness of their own process, the condition or the process that they're going through. To others, it can cause them to also run ahead of themselves and make it more detrimental. So I say focus on your own path. Each path is different. Each person's journey is different. And I want to also add to others, know where you are. Know where you are. We cannot be in the middle and at the end at the same time. We only can be at one place at one time. So we want to have to learn and understand where we are. And then the last one is learn from the process. And while you're learning from the process, don't stop living. Live within and through the process. Dr. Howell, sometimes people stop living because of where they are and what they're going through and a process that might feel harsh to them. They have given up their life and stopped living. So I want to say live both within and through the process. And those who are not, I just want to close with get up and live. Get up and live. Dr. Howell, your final strategies.
Listen, I had so many areas where I was going to start, but I heard something that you said, and every time you said something, I had another point I wanted to say to add to that. So let me start with this. Let me make sure I get it right. Okay, now there's a Bible text that says, "To whom much is given is much required." And so the more education you get, the more hardships you're going to have, the more decisions you're going to have to make, the more successful you are in life, the bigger the problems. So what you ask God for is, God, please help me to make the best decisions with the resources that I have. Don't ask God to take it away from you, because to whom much is given is much required. So that is beyond the scope of your asking. The next thing I want to say is this. I already said that every life is going to be, you're going to have a whole bunch of seasons in your life. So prepare for the seasons. And then you brought out something that I found that was very interesting. You said, know where you are and know where you're trying to go to. That's planning. And so mindfulness is knowing where you are currently and living your life based on where you are currently. But find people that have gotten to where you're trying to go to. Read books, watch documentaries, listen to some of the resources, because everyone has something on YouTube or some type of social platform that you can listen to. And then you can map out a series of steps based on what they did. But you said something that was very important. Your pathway is going to be different than everyone else's pathway. However, there are series of steps that prepared them to attract the success that they wanted in life. So start to mimic some of those steps, but just know you're going to have detours along the way that may not line up specifically with everything that the people that you're mimicking went through. So be prepared to change, be prepared to adapt, be prepared to reflect and see what needs to be changed in order to move forward. Now, next, make sure you have the resources handy, because nothing stops momentum faster than not having the resources. You have to stop to go back and get a 6 months degree or a 6 month certificate. You have to stop and find someone to mentor you, and they may not be around at the time. So when you're planning, make sure that you have access to the resources that you need. So proper planning is very important. And I've said this one here before: failing forward fuels a friendly future. What that means is this: learn from your mistakes. Instead of falling backwards on your back, fall forward so you can still see the direction you're trying to go in. And it's going to be friendly because you can still see your pathway of your final destination. And then I love what you said when you said it is not the destination. A lot of people die at age 21, but they're not buried until they biologically die in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. That means you have to enjoy the life that you're given. There's nothing worse than a life lived in misery because you're looking at other people's lives, so you're not concentrating on your own. So don't die young and be miserable until you die biologically. You know, and then the last thing is this: if you live to your 70s, let's say 77, you have about 4,000 weekends to live. Do not waste those weekends. So if you are half of 70, you only have 2,000, half of 77, you only have 2,000 weekends left. If you were to die today or tomorrow, would you be happy with the life that you've lived thus far? And if no, start to put steps in place to live a productive, happy, and service-filled life, so that when your days are done, people will have some positive things to say about you. This person was a good leader. This person was a good resource. This person was good at helping others and feel better about themselves and helping others get to where they want to get to. Versus this person was a bag of nerves. This person was miserable. This person everyone wants to avoid. Don't die at 21 and still be walking around as a zombie in life, just sucking the life out of people everywhere you go because of all the negativity that you have around you.
Wow. Dr. Howell, you said it. You said it. I wrap up everything that you have said in one word, in one sentence. Tell your heart to beat again. Tell your heart to beat again.
Love that.
Wow. Yes.
That sounds like a book right there.
Yeah, walking around, but they're dead. Call upon your heart and tell it to beat again. It's just a process.
Yes.
And this too will pass. This too will end. Thank you so much, Dr. Howell. That was excellent to get us out of here in this Lunch and Learn. We are happy that you joined us. And if you come in and watch the replay at any time, I please ask that you put hashtag replay somewhere there so that we can see that you came back or you were not available at the time when we were live, but you were still able to watch it. We thank you so much. Drop your comments as well, and even some questions that we can answer them at some point in time. My website is drjanicebrooks.com, which is drjanicebrooks.com. Hop over when you have the chance. Join my mailing list So from time to time, I can send you, information and resources that will help you to navigate life and leadership in the best way you can. Dr. Howell's website is
SiegfriedHowell.com.
SiegfriedHowell.com. Go right over when you can and join his mailing list. And he also will be able to send you resources from time to time and help to navigate life and leadership. Thank you so much again, and God bless you all. And you have a wonderful, awesome rest of your weekend. Don't forget to tell your heart to beat again. Bless you, bless you.
Bye, everyone.